Hello everyone and welcome inside the WOBM newsroom. I'm Vinay Benu. Many of us battle certain obstacles growing up into our teenage years, whether it's bullying, whether it's something big or something small, something inside of us or something in the community. And yet many of us find the courage to fight through it and become who we are. It's a learning experience as we grow older. These two girls from Howell have their own obstacles, their own battles that they've had to overcome or are still fighting themselves. It's Jonna and Allie Crocker. Welcome inside the WOBM newsroom. Thanks for coming in. I know it's your spring break, and we spoke before we got on air here that you'd be willing to sacrifice the day of school just to come in. We're not endorsing that, but I appreciate the effort there. So welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So and you both go to Howell High School?
Yes.
So home of the rebels?
Yeah.
And yet, ironically enough, you'd be willing to be a rebel and not be a school.
That's true.
We love you, Howell High School. You two have gone through a lot. Your teenage years, I mean, even before, not even graduated high school yet. So tell me a little bit about yourselves. You could start with the youngest. What you've had to go through throughout your entire childhood, what you're still battling today, some of the illnesses, the diseases that you've had to undergo and try to balance school and life and everything else.
So yeah, I'm Jonna Crocker. I'm a freshman at Howell High School. We started the foundation Fighting Hard because growing up, Allie was always sick. She had a rare disease, and one of her doctors told her to find a foundation that could help support her through it. And she looked super hard, and there were some for specific rare diseases, but there weren't any for all rare diseases for children. And she was like, you know what, let's start our own. And it's actually kind of funny. It was even after the foundation started that I got sick, so I wasn't even sick yet at the time. And so then I always knew what it was like to be the sibling of someone with a rare disease and knew how hard that was, and seeing her go in and out of the hospital and all of that, but I never really knew what it was like myself. And then so for me to get that rare disease and in and out of the hospital, all the things that come along with being sick, it really opened my eyes, and it helped me with the foundation too to realize what these kids are really going through, and you kind of have a different aspect of that life.
And I was, like Jonna said, I was sick from a very young age, and but once Jonna got sick, I think it was really different.
We both got that perspective.
Yeah, we both, we kind of just switched perspectives at the time. When she got sick, I was doing all right. I was on a new medication at the time, and so I had that sibling perspective for the first time ever, and it was crazy because I couldn't have imagined what it was like to watch someone you love so much go through it, but and especially to the extent that she was going through it, it was really rough, and and I think that our relationship has gotten a lot stronger since she got sick, and we're both able to empathize with each other, and I think that's the most important part, really, is having the support system in the family. Both our parents have been amazing for, they've given us everything and more, and they've helped us through everything. And, having a sibling that goes through a similar struggle, just having someone to talk to about it and bounce ideas off of, just to cope with it, it's really important.
Now, I looked up some of what you're about with the Fighting Hard Foundation, what you two have gone through. A couple similar things, but I know one of you has arthritis?
Yeah, I have arthritis.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has that been like physically for you, trying to do everyday things, schoolwork, any recreational activities, eating, sleeping? What has that been like on a daily basis for you?
Arthritis is rough to have as a child because, most people think arthritis is related to older people, and so when you're in school and people are complaining about their knees, you're kind of just like sitting there like, okay. But from a young age, my joints were always swollen. I didn't really know what was wrong, and they told me I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and essentially my whole body is just like inflamed all the time. And it's been difficult, and there were points where I couldn't really walk at all, or get out of bed, or just like pick things up because my hands were so bad. But the thing is that I was lucky enough to be put on a medication that's worked really well for me, and I don't know where I'd be without it at this time. But I started up running cross country and track, which is something that was not really that's not something they recommended, but
It's tough with it.
but I really did need something to like cope with it physically, because exercise, they say that it's really important with any rare disease or chronic illness. So I took up running, and it's actually done wonders for all my joints. I'm in the best state physically right now that I've ever been, and I'm actually in a meet this Saturday, and I'm a distance runner. It's something you wouldn't think would happen when you have arthritis, but it's about like getting through those challenges, because I don't take it for granted now that I know what it's like to not have been able to walk or get out of bed without pain. So now I think I just take advantage of the fact that I can.
It's certainly running, Allie, especially distance.
Yeah.
I can speak from experience. It takes a lot of endurance, a lot of pounding on the feet and the legs and stuff, and you gotta build up a lot of endurance and a lot of training on that. It's like I imagine it's got to be difficult at times on certain days at practice where you're trying to train for long distance runs at the same time while battling some pain. Is it tough to run around the track a bunch of times or try to build up that mileage so that you can compete in a race while also watching yourself to make sure you don't overdo it?
It's definitely tough, as I'm a really stubborn person, so I don't really, I enjoy pushing myself to the limit, so, but there are a lot of things I need to take into consideration, and I know a lot of people struggle in the rare disease community with that sort of how far can I go, because you still want to be like a normal kid, you want to do sports and get involved at school and everything, and I hadn't been able to do it when I was younger. Most of the runners on my team had started in middle school or younger than that, and I came in with a 15-minute mile time, and they were like, okay. But I was really determined, and it was for myself. It wasn't really I wasn't doing it to impress anyone. I was just kind of trying to better myself, and there have been days when I haven't been able to run, and when I get sick I do need to take off, and I think it's just finding the balance is a little bit difficult, but like I said, you kind of have to take advantage of the good days that you do have, because you don't know when you'll be right back to square one with the illness. So as long as I can, I'll be running. So it's been really fun, and as long as it's fun and not extremely painful or anything, then I would keep doing it.
Do you have to put ice or heat on any part of your body after practice or after a track meet for a period of time, just to kind of relieve some of the pressure?
Oh yeah, so I swell up a lot. I'm always inflamed or swollen, or in a little bit of pain after I run, but ice is a big thing, but all of us really ice.
Yeah.
A lot of runners have knee problems and other joint problems, so I don't feel outcasted in that sense. We're all going home from practice and icing for 3 hours, but I mean, it's something that I do, but like I said, I've been in the best physical state that I've been in a while, so I just kind of feel like a normal runner, which is good.
I know you got another year left of high school, right?
2 years now.
Is running, or whether it's track, cross country, is that something you want to keep doing maybe after high school into college, or?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't really, I don't know if I would do it in college as a sport there. I don't know if I'd be able to, but it's definitely a hobby that I'd keep doing for as long as I'm able to, because mentally, physically, it's done, it's been amazing for me. It's just I couldn't imagine not doing it anymore, so I think it's something that I keep doing in the future.
Now, I know the arthritis has taken a physical toll in addition to a lot of other things on you, but I know you're both battling a couple of gastrointestinal type diseases as well, so I'll get to you. I don't want to make it, I don't want to make it think like Allie's thinking all the sisters get I have older siblings and younger siblings, so I know. what are some of the gastrointestinal diseases you're battling, and how does that affect not just the way you're training, for track or distance, cross country, but how you got to balance a diet and, kind of live, a regular life?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky in the sense that my stomach issues were more prominent when I was younger, and luckily I'm in remission from Crohn's disease right now, and the medications that I'm on for the arthritis actually double up and help with the gastrointestinal diseases as well. But I do think Jonna is more qualified to talk about the gastro stuff in that sense.
Area specialties.
Yeah, we both know the struggle. We have the general idea, but she definitely is way more qualified to talk about those struggles than I am.
Go ahead.
So I have something called gastroparesis, and so basically my stomach muscles are like paralyzed, so they don't work and food doesn't go through. And I've been through pretty much everything: feeding tubes, PICC lines, TPN. I actually have something called a gastric pacemaker. Very weird, probably
Okay.
have not heard of it. There are less than 100 kids in the whole entire world that have it. And so I'm very blessed. I go out to Ohio every 8 weeks for treatment, and it's life-changing. There have been times where I could not take a bite of food, a sip of water, literally getting fed nutrition through my veins. And I grew up eating so much. I was that kid. Everything you gave me, I would eat. And so I had never thought about what would happen if I could never eat. I had never thought about what would happen if I could just not eat again. And so it was really hard for me in the beginning, and I mean still is. I have that daily battle, like what would happen, and thankfully the pacemaker, I can eat again. Still have limitations for sure, but pretty much back to, like, I could go out to lunch with my friends, or I could do those normal daily things, and you don't realize how much they impact your life not being able to eat. Like, even school and the cafeteria, or like if your friends want to go out to ice cream in the summer, things like that. And I also didn't realize that there were people who couldn't eat. Like, I had never known that was a thing. And then I feel like once I got sick, I met so many other people who had the same thing as me too, and you just kind of form this community. Like, you get what they're going through, and you know that you're not alone, and even though it sucks, like you would never want to go through that ever, but you get that there are other people who are in the same situation as you and get that same feeling.
How much of a struggle is it with maybe some things I guess a lot of people would take for granted, in the store, going out to a restaurant, looking through things that look, tasty to the eyes, and your eyes open up, like I need to have this or that, or ice cream or pizza, or burgers and dogs and all those things. Are you limited to what you can and can't have, and does what you can't eat, does that take a toll on you? And
for right now, it's kind of like I could eat everything, but just limited amounts of it, which I am so grateful for. But like I said, there was that point in my life where I couldn't eat anything at all. And it kind of, for me, it went in waves. Like, it would be like, half the time I would be like, can you cook something just so I can have the smell of it? Like, it was so weird. Or like, I would be fine with going to the store, and like, it would kind of be like you had to read my mood that day. Some days I'd be like, don't put a single thing of food in front of me. Like, I just can't do it today. But it's really, you don't know how you're going to handle that, and it's something that no one ever thinks they will have to handle. And I mean, there's always that risk that the pacemaker could stop working, or that I could have a setback and not be able to eat again, and that is definitely a fear. But and I know it might happen eventually, but for now, because I can eat again, I never take it for granted. Like, every single thing I eat, I am so grateful for. And it just kind of comes in waves. Like, you don't know how you're going to feel about it until it's, like, right there. So.
And some of those days we were, we our family, we eat dinner together every night. And when she couldn't eat, some nights when we read her mood, and it was go eat in your room, or go eat in the living room, or have her go in the shower and we'll eat, And it was rough because, she was a kid that ate so much all the time,
So much.
and she just loved it, and to see her kind of not be able to be around it, it put it in perspective for us too, because we still can't imagine what that was like. Some people complain about the stomach bug, and it's like, you know, even
Yeah.
Jonna knows for sure, like when the stomach bug starts going around again and people are complaining, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
when I get the stomach bug, I get a major setback and then can't eat. So like,
it's
it's
definitely
just
a struggle. For
yeah,
everyone. Yeah.
for sure. And like I said before, there are so many other kids too that are going through it. You don't realize it. I mean, there's a statistic: 1 in 10 people have a rare disease or chronic illness, and you don't realize that people in your classroom, people in your school, there are people going through this all the time. Like people around you, and a lot of times like you can't see it, so. They don't know, and if they're shy and they don't want to say anything, I know even I'm very out there about it, but sometimes there are just people who I don't want to tell it to, like I don't feel comfortable with it. So you don't know who's battling what around you.
How has this, what you've both been going through, affected you at school, whether it's in the cafeteria at lunchtime or maybe in the classroom, when other kids or teachers started to find out what it was that you were going through? Did anybody come up and try to help you, or just be your friend, or on the other side I don't have to tell you, kids can certainly be cruel in a lot of different ways. Are there any kids that picked on you for what you were going through at any point in time?
Catch up for a second? Okay. So, I didn't really have anyone pick on me. I was very grateful in that sense that everyone has been super supportive and really helpful of my journey. Because of my feeding tube, I had a feeding backpack, so that I could go to school, it was basically everything was in the backpack, and I'd had to feed all day. And no one really asked me what it was, but sometimes it would beep in the middle of the class, and everyone would kind of look at me. Or there was this one teacher who she ended up being my homeschool teacher for a year, and she was so sweet. She's so amazing, and so. When she finally came to homeschool me, she's like, "Oh, I always called you the backpack girl." I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "I never knew why you had the backpack walking around school, but I thought it was cool." So even though I had it, I still kind of kept it a secret. No one really knew, except when it beeped, and people would be like, "Oh, again." But one kid, he thought it was a printer, and he was like, "It's just a noise because it makes a constant and so he was like, "What is that printer noise? Why is it still going?" And I just kind of sat there like, okay, but it was just, for me it was funny because I mean that's my life and I just have to make the best out of it, and I was able to manage to find a way that I could go to school while still battling, and so it was funny for me to see how people reacted, and no one even asked me what it was, which I thought that was weird, but it was either they kind of knew, my close friend knew, or everyone else was just kind of well, I know she's sick because she's been homeschooled all this time, so something's wrong, but I'm not going to ask what. I'm just going to...
Yeah. If you find a way to have a wireless printer, you solve a lot of office's problems. Yeah, right. You could become a genius, be a millionaire.
And somehow that kid didn't notice that wherever I went, that noise was. He just thought there were printers everywhere going, so...
Think about that and then patent it when you got it developed.
All right.
Did you ever feel like eyes were on you at any point in school? Like people were just thinking about, oh man, I feel bad for them, or maybe I should say this or do this, because do you think that people ever labeled you as having a disease or being disabled in any way, that that people were just offering their pity just because they felt bad, not because they necessarily truly were trying to help?
Well, for me, not at school, because I couldn't go to school, but if you've ever seen the NG tube, it goes through your nose, so you can see it and it's there, and I wasn't at school at that time. I had to be homeschooled for a while, but I would go to the store, or I would go out with my mom every once in a while, and a lot of people stare, a lot of people. There was one family who, every aisle I would go into, they would, peek around the aisle, and I would be but, that was the majority of when I felt like all the attention was on me, and it was bad attention. I felt like people were kind of staring at me in a negative way, but I kind of realized that they're probably just curious, they're like, wait, what is that? Why is that a thing? It's not about me at all. But I feel like that's part of the thing too, a lot of illnesses you can't see, and when you see it, everyone's looking and being what's that? When you see a person in a wheelchair, it's your natural instinct to look or
Right.
just like wonder what's going on. And I feel like for a lot of these kids with rare diseases, they're not in a wheelchair. They don't have anything physical that you can see. So there are definitely sometimes, like now no one looks at me. Like now I'll be out for a few days for my Ohio trips and at the hospital in Ohio, and people will be like, wait, why were you out? Like, it's just no one if you don't see it, then you don't really think something's wrong.
Yeah, and the thing is, I used to get really mad about when people would stare at her. I really was so angry with it because, as cheesy as it is, she's such an incredible person, and for people to only see what's on the outside was like infuriating to me. And you know, I've dealt with, to an extent, I mean, when I was younger, I used to wear 2 giant knee braces because my knees would dislocate. And, you know, people would call me bionic or whatever, and I thought that was funny, but you know, I was out quite a bit, I don't know, like 1st grade and then like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I would be out a lot. And, you know, even this year, I was out a few times, you know, in the hospital and things like that, but when I was younger, I used to be on crutches all the time on crutches. And, you know, people started to, like, talk about if I was faking it just to be on crutches, and I was like, yeah. And, you know, and sometimes I would walk with the crutches or walk with one crutch, and so people would kind of be like, I don't know about that.
Some people take advantage of having crutches.
Yeah, some people want them or like to have them,
Right.
and I don't understand, but you know, some people would look at me, or, you know, I used to be on a steroid medication, and, you know, it made me gain a lot of weight, and so naturally I wasn't really self-conscious until I figured out that other people were looking at me, and, you know, it did take a toll on how I looked at myself after that, because it was hard, because I didn't really understand what the weight was from, you know, it just made me gain a bunch of water weight. So, you know, I had a chipmunk face for a long time, and, you know, because I'm really high dose steroids, so people would look at me and, you know, I don't know if they just thought that was how I was, but I would fluctuate a lot. You know, I'd go from really thin to, like, you know, a little bit out there, and, you know, it was never really my normal body type as I was on and off those medications, which is why I'm so happy now to be off of them and, you know, on the medications that have been helping me. And, you know, I feel like I got a couple stares here and there about that, or people would ask me about it. I actually met this one girl who I always knew was super, super, like, thin and, you know, just like, you know, one of those people you notice for that. And I was friends with her for a while. And then a couple years after we stopped talking, you know, we just drifted, but a couple of years, she started having the chipmunk face, and I didn't want to be mean, right? So I just walked up to her and I was like, okay, I have a question. Are you on this medication? And she was like, yeah, how did you know? And I was like, I got you, I got you. And, you know, and it turns out, you know, we bonded over the stomach issues that we had and whatever. It was just nice because a lot of people can be judgmental, but that is something that, like, you know, now both of us look pretty normal, and you wouldn't really think that we had anything wrong. Especially, you know, you tell someone that you're in cross country and track, or, you know, you're winning competitions in your business and ethics clubs. You're like, you know, you don't really think that there's anything wrong now. And so I feel like more people are starting to see us for who we are instead of what we have. And I think that that's nice. And a lot of kids in the rare disease community, like John said, most of them don't look sick. Some of them do, but most of them look like normal, healthy kids. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that, you know, they might look normal, but they have this disease that can take over at times, but then also they don't want you to see them as that disease, they want you to see them as normal. So it's kind of like this figuring out a balance. It's really difficult, but I think it's just about finding a way to, you know, show who you are and have that overpower, you know, the diseases that you might have.
You two seem close today. I don't know if it's just
Oh,
for
no,
the
yeah.
camera or anything.
We're pretty close.
I'm sure as teenagers, I'm sure you fight at home, right?
A little bit. A little bit.
Mom's smiling in the off camera.
I might instigate a little bit.
But how does the two of you working together, supporting each other, how does that help you out on a daily basis with what you're going through, or just being, close sisters and trying to help each other out? Or I know you mentioned earlier how it upset you, how people are, were maybe looking at John or talking about her and stuff like that. So how do you help each other out with what you're going through?
It does really help to have that support system, and I don't even think it's because she has a rare disease. I think it's just because she's my sister and she's there for me, and she knows that what I'm going through is tough sometimes, and she's always, when you're upset about it or when you're kind of defeated, because as much as we try to be super positive about it, there are those times where you're just defeated and you think nothing's going to work, or when at those times where I couldn't eat, there were times where I thought I was never going to get better, and there are always those times where you're super defeated, and then just to have someone to lean on and someone to say that it's going to be better, or someone to not even talk about anything with, to play Wii or to play a board game or just to keep your mind off things. It really does help to have a sibling as a support system.
Yeah, and I remember before Jonna got sick, if I would be having a rough day or a rough night or whatever, Jonna would always go bring me a stuffed animal from her room, and she'd be like, "Here, it's okay." And even from that, as cheesy as those things were, and as it doesn't seem like they'd be helpful, but they really are. And
it's the little things. It doesn't have to be something that you can touch. It doesn't have to be something
tangible.
That's the word, tangible. It could be just a moment, or just talking to get your mind off things.
Yeah, and I think that we're really close. As much as we, we might fight like teenagers at times, but we are really close. And I think we really do know how the other person's feeling most of the time, and the best way to handle it. And I think that, sometimes just hanging out in the same room is enough to kind of make each other feel better. And I think that even though that's mostly just because we're sisters, I think both of us having these kinds of diseases, it does help us empathize with each other. And, we know, okay, I can't do this around her today, or I can't eat this food around her, or, she has a migraine, so, don't, flicker the lights on her, but it definitely helps to have someone so close to you. You just don't have to keep explaining yourself over and over. They already know. So I think it's really helpful. I couldn't imagine not having her as a sister, So I'm really lucky that she's here, and I think she might feel the same way, but
Thanks.
But I think in the rare disease community,
as of right this second,
yeah, it'll change later today.
Yeah, I mean, in the rare disease community, that's kind of what we founded it on, that support system with people who just get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really important, because we don't have to have meetings where we just all talk about the terrible things that go on in our diseases, What we find is that there are a lot of common threads between what we go through. A lot of families have financial issues or the siblings need emotional support, they really do. And it's hard to watch someone you love go through it, or it's hard to go through it yourself. And so I think that, it's finding those common threads and then helping in those areas that kind of brings the whole community together. It's a really nice feeling.
Talk to me about now the Fighting H.A.R.D Foundation, what it is, how it began, and what you're looking to do with it.
Yeah, so H.A.R.D stands for having a rare disease. So, like I said before, it began when Allie was sick, and then one of her doctors said, you should find a foundation that'll help support you, and there were none for just rare diseases for kids. And so we help those kids with rare diseases and chronic illnesses to not feel alone. Right now, we send care packages to all over the country, so blankets and pillows and gift cards and Fighting H.A.R.D stuff, just to let them know they're not alone. But we financially assist, I think, 35 families now in Monmouth and Ocean County, and this is helping them pay for things when insurance doesn't cover it. There's a lot of those things. One of the girls in our foundation, she lost her hair due to treatment, and because her disease is rare, her insurance wouldn't cover a wig for her, so we bought her 2 wigs, and there are just a lot of things that insurance doesn't cover because a lot of things in the rare disease world are considered experimental. Most medicines are even considered experimental. I don't even think like one of mine isn't. So that's really a struggle for a lot of these families, the medical bills, the hospital fees, the co-pays, the everything. And so we try to help out with that, giving these kids a night out, because a lot of times when you have all these bills piled up, those parents don't, they can't validate spending that money on a night out to go to dinner or to go to the boardwalk. And as much as they want to do it, they're like, I need to pay these bills. And so we kind of try to send them money and be like, okay, go to the boardwalk for tonight. Like, give them a Jenkinson's gift card.
Hey, don't you dare use this money
like,
on medical bills.
Like,
just
use
go.
this for a fun family night out so that way you can enjoy it. And it's those moments when if they're feeling well, you want to enjoy those happy moments where they're feeling well and they can go out. Because a lot of times there are some days where you just lay in bed or can't make it to school even, or just really sick. And so when you're at a good moment, it's really great to celebrate those moments. And so we try to help that. We also have a fund at K.A.V. Children's Hospital at Jersey Shore. It's a $10,000 fund for those frequent flyers, those kids who are in the hospital all the time, those chronic patients, just so that they can get a meal or the blanket on their bed when they come back from a surgery or a procedure, or just those things to help those kids out.
Yeah, and I think the emotional and financial support is really important, which is why, you know, we want to continue growing to be able to help more families and help the families that we help now even more than we do right now. You know, in the beginning when we first started the foundation, giving $20 to a family was like this huge deal. And it still is a huge deal to the families. And I think that, you know, being able to like give one family like $500, like that would just be incredible to like, because we know how we would feel if we got that from another foundation, you know? And we want to be able to provide that for other people because we know the kinds of struggles they're facing. And like Jonah said, we really want them to do nights out and things like that. So we try to provide like opportunities for these rare kids to get together. We do like a fall family fun day where, you know, those families can come and like just talk to each other and hang out and make friends with each other, you know, so they can have more of a support system. You know, it doesn't have to be just us talking to them.
There are 3 little boys
that
they met through the foundation, all 3 of them, different families, and every time we have an event, they always are running around and going crazy together, and just like all 3 different diseases, different battles, different struggles, but the fact that they don't care that they're sick, like, they just want to hang out, like we do
normal
beach,
kids.
yeah, like normal kids. Because they are normal kids. They're just battling a little extra, and these kids still go to school and still try to push through. And when they're good, they act like they're completely fine. And
they're a little crazy.
Yeah, a little bit. But like beach days and just hanging out and like, I mean, even for us, just hanging out with those other kids that get it, it means so much. There are so many teenagers too, and you know, teenagers can be moody and, you know, and like you go through those emotions, and that's when your hormones change, and you're just like, you can get really frustrated at times with your situation, and then, I mean, normal teenagers have those problems, so to have that added, oh my God, are people thinking about me? Oh my God, what do I look like? Oh my God, I'm going through so much, and I can't be at school. Like, it just helps to have that support system and hang out with other people who get it.
Yes.
How can the community, Ocean Monmouth County, help with the foundation and help the 2 of you get the word out about what you're doing, or contribute in some way to help out the 2 of you or any of these other families affected by rare diseases?
Anything helps. Our main goal is to raise awareness for these kids, because a lot of times you don't know rare diseases. They're less common. You don't know what someone's going through. There's a few kids in our foundation where less than 100 kids in the world have their disease. And so just raising awareness that there are these kids out there, and they're really awesome. I mean, they're pretty cool, and just raising awareness that these diseases exist. And also we do fundraisers, like we've had Panera fundraisers where 20% of the proceeds go to Fighting Hard. We do a clothing drive in June, and with our clothing drive, all the money that comes back goes directly to these kids. And honestly, all the money that comes to us, all the donations, everything goes right back to these kids. So anything really to help them out, like gifts, things, anything.
Yeah, and I think the community vibe is really important for us. So we're based in Howell, so Monmouth County has been like our starting point. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of local businesses who help out, and sponsorships, anything, grants help us out immensely. You know, some people don't like, or some businesses might not think $1,000 is really worth anything, but $1,000 to us is incredible. You know, so anyone who's willing to give to a cause that's not given enough attention is just amazing to us, because we know that there are so many incredible foundations for kids with, let's say, cancer, and that's amazing. We couldn't be more happy, because we know people with cancer, and everyone knows someone with cancer most likely, and so
our goal is to kind of get as big as those foundations are, to be able to help these Fighting Hard kids as much as they can help those kids. Like, we want to grow our foundation to be able to help all these kids to that level.
Yeah, mostly because, these things, like, everything's going to be covered for them, and, just because this one girl in our foundation lost her hair to treatment, like, the wigs are covered if you have cancer, the wigs are not covered if you have a rare disease. So, to kind of break that barrier between those, because these kids are just as important as the kids with cancer, and these kids have struggles that are, right at that same level of, how intense they are and how hard they might be. And so being able to provide like the financial support or the emotional support is our main goal, really. To have people in the community who just like understand and are willing to help that cause, and help us to grow that cause, because we're really passionate about it. So the more people that know about it, the better for us.
If somebody wants to donate any funds or contribute something like a blanket or anything, how can they get in touch with the foundation? Social media websites, phone number, email?
Yeah, so we have a website, fightinghardfoundation.org, and there's a donate tab on the website, which is incredible if you choose to donate on that, by the way. And our social media, we have a Facebook page, still Fighting Hard Foundation. Instagram is Fighting Hard Foundation. Twitter is Fighting Hard 2, I think.
And O2.
Fighting Hard
02.
O2. If you search Fighting Hard, you'll likely find it. But
and then we also have a P.O. Box, P.O. Box 386 at the Howell Post Office.
Yeah, so any contributions really, really do help us a lot. And, if anybody hears about, like, the fundraisers that we're doing, the clothing drive especially, like, we'd love if anybody could come. Even just donating time is, like, one of the best things, too, so.
I'll close up with this. I know you've mentioned, the support you have for each other. What is that support or that help coming from your family, your friends, especially at home, with your parents and stuff? What has that been like for you as you've grown up and have continued to battle these diseases, these illnesses, and kind of the daily struggles of everyday life? What has that been like?
Our parents are absolutely amazing. I mean, we have the best parents out there. I'm a little biased, but I think so. I think it really means a lot to have such a great support system. I think that's one of the things that helps you emotionally battling a rare disease. I feel like having someone to lean on, just having someone who's there. A lot of times parents have to do treatments. I know my mom has to do some treatments for me a lot, and I even had a port at one time, and my mom would access my port, just so that way I could have a day to go swimming in the pool, because I had to be accessed all the time. And so when the home nurse would come, she would de-access it because you have to do it once a week, but then she'd just put the needle right back in. But my mom was like, if I learn how to do it, would I be able to re-access her at night? So at least she could have that one day a week to go swimming. And that's what we did for a whole entire summer. It was Monday Fun Days. And so just having that overwhelming support from the parents, and parents can they know way more about life, and so they can figure out more
Sometimes we
things
don't
and
think so.
they have that logistic. Okay, bring this back into the real world. Think about it for a second. And so it really helps. And you mentioned friends too. I mean, I have a pretty great group of friends, and even though they don't know all of it, they can never understand all of it, and that's all right. But just even if I don't feel like telling them what's going on, they text me and they're like, I'm there for you. And even that text, that message, just being like, I'm here if you need anything, it means a whole lot.
Yeah, and like Jonna said, Jonna could never put it better, really. I mean, Mom does my injections every week, and, I don't really know a lot of moms that would do that, but, here we are, and, it is really nice to know that you have that support system. Not everybody does get that and get that lucky to have that, but, we are blessed enough to have this amazing support system. I mean, my mom was like, yeah, sure, let's start a foundation. And,
Dad came up with the name.
Even though I was 12 and, she was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And, and she had to do all the government stuff. I don't know anybody who would really put in that work.
Yeah, this foundation wouldn't exist if it wasn't for them. I mean, we're not allowed to be president and vice president yet, so that's Mom and Dad right now.
Yeah, so they've been doing, so much for us. And, Dad works a lot to help us out. And, they couldn't be more supportive of anything we want to do. And so for us to be so passionate about the same cause, and helping the rare disease community, we know that they're right behind us. And that's really, and that's, and that's how we're able to grow so much. And for us, that's why every little bit counts. It's because we know that, we have this strong support system. And our friends have been incredible. They volunteer at our events too and everything like that. So
come out and play with the kids.
They're incredible people, and at the same time we get to kind of teach them these kids are normal, and this doesn't have to define us. But look what we're doing. We're gonna help them, and you can help them too. And I feel like the support system is the most important thing, really. Yeah. And that's why the whole mission is to help kids not feel alone, because they're not alone, and I think that's just our overall goal, and we couldn't do it without all of our support.
Allie, Jonna, thank you for coming in and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Continue to fight your own battles, certainly, and hopefully, one day things, maybe there'll be a cure and you'll be, be disease-free. But certainly continue to fight and keep battling, keep doing all the good work you're doing, and inspiring others, maybe who are in your shoes and kind of are fearful of their own situation and they don't know what to do. So continue to give hope to everybody else, and we'll get the word out. We got the website information. You can head over to our website anytime to find out more about Jonna and Allie and how you can help. And thank you for coming in and
thank you so much
spending a day of your spring break with us. So.
No, thank you so much for having us.
That's Allie and Jonna Crocker. I'm Vinay Benu from WOBM News in the WOBM newsroom. And until next time, so long, everyone.